Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 109 of the Stacey West podcast. We're doing this live, so if you are seeing me at the moment, I currently have what can only be described as some sort of weird Cossack-like Santa hat on, but that's by the by. This is kind of a bit of a special one. We're doing a look back over 2020, which has been a bit of an awful year in general, but not a bad one for the club. So, as ever, I'm going to be joined by, drum roll, Derry. Gaz, how you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. It's
off now, I think. For those listening at home, I had some glasses and a reindeer nose on. So there we go.
Oh, is that not your normal glasses?
Hey, I love your Santa beard.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, this time of year, you have at least one fat lad with a beard trying to bring joy to everybody. So that's what I've decided to do. You know, dressed in red and white, of course, and hopefully should be a good one.
I've got my Christmas jumper on.
Christmas jumper on.
I think I bought it from Primark 4 years ago, and I've worn it 4 times.
I'm not going to have my Christmas jumper on because it is currently about 1,000 degrees in this room. So, yeah, that'll be fun.
Well, obviously, it's a bit of a Christmas party as well, isn't it? So, just 1 second. That didn't happen as half as quickly as I would hope. It really didn't. I thought it was going to be picked, but it's being gently poured. So I'm having an Elvis juice poured. Wow. Do you know what? I may as well have gone to the pub and waited it for it to open after tier 3, didn't I? It was all pre-arranged as well. There we go. Thank you very much.
Yeah. There you go. Wow, that is a beer and a half. Thanks, Fee.
Well, yeah, there's some beer with the head, so it's all good.
So anyway, yeah, we're gonna kind of do the normal stuff that we do. Yeah, chugging that one.
That's good.
Yeah, going to do the normal stuff we do, and then have a look at some best moments of 2020 and look forward to 2021.
Absolutely. Should we go to some comments first of all?
Yeah, may as well.
I'll read them out because obviously people will be listening as well. So first of all, Kate Jackson, evening gents. Hope you're both well, ? Yes, we are, Ben.
Mm-hmm. All good.
Watching, listening whilst doing overtime at work. Can't come home for Christmas due to living in London, so might as well earn that sweet dollar.
Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely. I hear Chris Rea is saving on his petrol bill this year. Well.
There it is.
David Johnson, happy holidays, everyone. David will be joining us later on, live and direct from Missouri, not far from where Ozark is filmed, actually, but I don't think he's in the drug import-export trade. Stu Wells, he's a good lad. Bloody hell, Gary, with a smile. Yes, it happens, Stu. Segueing into, especially after a 4-0 win, what do we think?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we said last week, didn't we, that, you know, we were not necessarily struggling to see where the goals were going to come from, but with George being held back in his attacking play, it was probably going to stifle things a little bit. But what do we know? Hey, they kind of turned around on Saturday and gave us something to really be pleased with. I mean, it was I was well happy with that performance. Just kept turning the screw, putting the pressure on, and you know, Brennan Johnson at the end there, you know, coming away with 2 late goals, thought was quite impressive. It was one of those where we had I've done a Michael. It's one of those where you know, you had we had the pressure pretty much all the way through the game, but we really made it count towards the end. And I think the 2 goals for Brennan just put the icing on the cake, really.
Yeah, I thought it would be tight. The last thing I said to Sam on Matchday Live was 0-0 today, Sam. Well, he didn't ask me. Sorry. Oh, dear. It's a bit gassy, that. When he didn't ask me, it was like, yep, definitely. It's going to be 0-0. And within a couple of minutes, Anthony Scully had comfortably scored. I mean, it was a great goal. Great ball from Brannan. But, you know, we've questioned Scholes a little bit. I know you've seen the comment from Pete. We've questioned Scholes a little bit, I think, haven't we? Over the course of the season, not his ability, but more which position he plays best in. Yeah. Sometimes he's arguably he's not great out wide. I thought he was excellent. I thought he had a really busy game. And that's one thing I think you can always say about Anthony Scully is he's busy. So I thought it was a great start. And when you go 1-0 up, it makes a massive difference to the complexion of the game. I think maybe had that goal not gone in and had we got to 10, 15, 25 minutes without a goal, I think it would have been a much different game. As it was, they had to come and attack us, didn't. Let's be honest, they were shit. I mean, they were, though, weren't they?
It was one of those games where we had, I think we saw what a lot of opposition fans and a lot of opposition managers and stuff made us out to be. In that you are caning that. No wonder you're gassy. There was that feeling that we were. The long ball, dirty side, and we were the ones that were, a bit thuggish at times. But I mean, if that's what managers think we were like, yeah, the perfect thing there from Brian.
Route one wankers.
It wasn't. I think. In the preview you said you spoke with Jake and said that they were training on the pitch and the pitch was cutting up and it was a horrible pitch to play on. You couldn't play football the way that we like to play football now in that sort of an environment, could we? It was just poor. Like, we couldn't. You couldn't put two passes together really without having to scoop one up at some point, and it was. I'm impressed with the way that we managed to deal with the pitch first off, and also we'll come on to it, I'm sure, but how they finished the game with 11 men, I do not know.
Yeah, we'll come on to it in a second. I just want to make a comment actually about their style of play. And Bubs, who's actually in the waiting room, he's going to be on shortly. He's commenting as well. He says their fans weren't happy. Funnily enough, Bubs, we'll just actually bring you in on that just really quickly. So, ladies and gentlemen, everybody's favourite photographer, Bubs. How are we doing, pal?
Good evening, everybody.
I'll do sign language for anybody that needs it. So,
yeah, it was quite funny. The two games so far that I've been to where there's been fans, Shrewsbury picked that up, and they weren't happy. It was quite entertaining, and it was even more entertaining in Northampton on Saturday. They were just not happy, and I thought, if you've waited so long to be able to come to a football match, and all you can do is sit there and whinge. And in both games, fans have left early. And you just think, hang on, this fans do a month and 9 months or so to get the games. And you've managed to get a ticket for a game. Yes, you got beat 4-0, but like you said, it was funny. There was the second half, there was a steward sat next to me. And I don't know how he didn't realise I was a Lincoln photographer, because I was sat at the end where Lincoln was. And he was saying, "Oh, we're making them look good," which I couldn't really argue against because they were so bad. They were making us look better than we were, but we played well. They were just terrible. And at Bolger, the fans were getting on his back, and he was shouting back at them like he did when he was getting stick for trying to play to the back. It really was entertaining. Something I've missed. I've been very lucky to go to the games, but it has been, it's not entertaining. It's a crying shame, because the way we're playing and the position we are in the league would be great down at the bank. Boxing Day would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a potential yellow banana skin playing bottom of the league like we did against Shrewsbury, but the bank full of Christmas revelers would be fantastic. Yeah, you know what I mean? Trying to go on top and all that. But I agree with Mr. Scully, is that we should end the season now and do points per game.
Yeah.
We should do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. The Northampton fans were funny, very entertaining.
Kate Jackson wants to know how we turn Facebook subtitles on. I'm not quite sure about that. I'll have to do a written article afterwards. So, and Good evening from Sam White. Everything to smile about. Have a great Christmas in your bubbles. Indeed. Kevin McGill, as Bubs has just said, Imps top on points per game. Still too early, but just saying. Bubs, we'll chat to you again in a minute, mate. Thank you very much for that. So, just to talk about the style of play as well. Do you know what? I'm not somebody that's going to get on my high horse about that. You said that we did it for a while. I think under Danny we didn't do it like Northampton did. I think
no,
that was somewhere between John Beck and Danny Cowley. I think it was a little bit of both, to be honest. But they didn't have the players for it. I mean, that Benny Ashley Seal is a decent striker. But, you know, when he turned Monsma and Monsma pulled him down for the booking, you thought that's what he wants to be doing. He wants to be getting around, running into green space. And it's the same with, is it Hoskins, Sam Hoskins?
Yes.
I think he's another lad who, you know, when he gets the ball at his feet, is a decent player. Keith Curl, not long for that. By the end of January, Northampton will have a new manager, in my opinion, almost certain.
I mean, if it goes, you know, if it continues to go how it did, you know, at the weekend, I can't disagree with you. I think it was, as Bubs just said, the fans were on the back all the way through the game. And there is a part of me that's thinking, well, you know, like Bubs said, you've waited for so long to come back to the games, and all you're going to do is sit there and moan. But I can't really blame them, to be honest, you know, having seen what they were doing. I think Neil's actually just made a good point in the comments that it was direct, but it wasn't necessarily long ball under Danny. And I think that's probably where, you know, Northampton differed, aside from the outright thuggery. But you know, it was a convincing win. I don't think Northampton had a lot to offer, and it was interesting hearing Bub saying that about Kean Bolger getting more or less slated by all the fans. I was a little bit nervy that, you know, former players coming back, potentially scoring, all the rest of it, and he actually had the best chance of the game to score for Northampton. Obviously hit the bar, and you know, I think the only other shot that was on target drew the biggest cheer of the game from the Northampton fans, which was quite an ironic cheer. And it just kind of goes to show, you know, what's going on down there. But we're not a Northampton
podcast, so come on.
We said exactly the same thing there. Yeah, we're not, you know, not a Northampton podcast.
Before we continue, a lot of love for Ben. So we've seen this one. Pete, who's on the show later. What's that Xmas thing? His wife asks Suze. That's Gary's co-host Ben. I thought it was a Christmas ornament on his desk. And there's another one where Neil Carlton, Ben looks like Santa's love child. Yes, he's abandoned, unwanted love child.
That hurt here and here.
And they touched me here. So anyway, moving on. How did they finish with 11 men on the field? I think Bolger could have been sent off. I think it was Bolger. There was 2 bookable offences. Obviously, we've got to talk about Kaboa because it was an assault, wasn't it? I mean, I've seen Buckley's pictures. I haven't uploaded any for the show, but I mean, it was shocking. It wasn't just the blood. When you zoom in on some of those pictures, it's a black eye as well. There's a clear motion with the elbow straight into his face. In Kaboa's defence, he doesn't have a look first. I think if he's glanced and then he's done it, it's a red card. I think he's lashed out with his elbow on purpose. I don't think he's thought, I'll smash this kid in the cheekbone. I think he's just gone, there's an elbow. But Jason Lee, going back further, Mick Harford, they were all elbows when they jumped. They probably did that a million times and got away with it. But in the game, in this day and age, that's a red card all day long. But
I think you've got to look at that and say it was picked up on the radio that they didn't jump. You know, it was a ball that they were kind of, you know, they didn't jump for it. He just kind of swung his elbow round and didn't leave the floor. So at that point, you know, that by the letter of the law, you're saying that his arm is in an unnatural position. You know, it's at that point, it's definitely a red card. And I mean, you know, this kind of, I saw somebody trying to draw a comparison between that and, you know, Reedy in the Czech trade final.
Yeah,
you know, was it?
Yeah,
I can't remember if it was you or not. Anyway, yeah, I've seen a couple of people then make that comment, and it was, some people said, "Oh, that's Lincoln thuggery." How did they get away with that? And it's, to me, I mean, I know you've sort of come to Reedy's defence a little bit on that a couple of times, but I think they are different incidents.
not anymore.
I'm sure
I have done, but Reedy's podcast, he actually admitted he went out to hurt the player.
Oh, okay.
He said I was looking to leave a mark on the player. So this is that's the incident. I actually think their lad has jumped there because he wasn't as tall as Monster. So I do think he's left the floor. But it's this picture that does me. It's
when he rubs his elbow. Yeah,
he's rubbing his elbow when he's walking back across. So you can see he's made contact quite clearly with the elbow. But look, that's what it is. At the end of the day, I don't want to focus on the negatives too much because, again, I thought, as you said, we put a good show on under testing conditions. And it wasn't just the fact that we've beaten a team in the bottom six. It wasn't just the fact we won 4-0 away from home. It's the fact it came off the back of 2 defeats, bad defeats, really. Both games that, in my opinion, we should have taken at least a point from. We should have done against Sunderland. They took their chances and they were the better side. We were poor. We were worth the points against Shrewsbury. I thought, it was just a poor game all round. But that's what Shrewsbury do. The last 3 times we've played them, the games have been diabolical to watch. They've been worse than watching 2 fat blokes in Santa hats talking about Lincoln for an hour and a half. But the Northampton game wasn't. It was nice to watch, not in terms of football, but in terms of it was actually different. It was like when you watch Lincoln this season, it's always been the same. One team has loads of possession, the other team works hard out of possession, and there's a few chances. And it's great. The football's been really pretty to watch. But what we saw against Northampton actually was something completely different because we haven't played Gillingham yet, because we haven't played other teams that pump it forward yet. It was the first chance we got to see this Lincoln City team in a fight. I'll be honest, I shit myself every time they went in for a tackle because it was the sort of game where players get injured, and with 15 outfield players, we could do without that. Yeah. But we got on the right side of the result, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think there are some possibly some squeaky bums around a certain Mr. Johnson, but I think that's probably a discussion to have in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I do too. So before we move on to Burton, got a couple more comments. Shane Wakefield, thanks to Gary and Ben, don't underestimate how significant your wittering has been to many over the past 10 months. Not to Fee and Rachel, I'm told.
Yeah.
Happy Christmas to you and yours. Adam Bull loves the hats. Happy Christmas, Adam. Who we got? Sorry if I can't read all the comments. Sorry if I missed them out. Northampton commentator didn't even mention the elbow. Do you know what? I actually don't get the criticism of some of the Lincoln commentators. So I didn't listen to the Northampton one because home supporters and home commentators really annoy me. But anything more on Northampton before we move on?
No, I think so. I think, as you said, came off the back of a really difficult week, and it just showed that they've sort of got the character to bounce back. I think the important thing as well is it was an unchanged side from Tuesday night. So not having any changes brought into the side in the wake of a defeat or in the wake of 2 defeats, I think that was really important for the players' confidence as well.
Huge point that, because everybody expected changes. Eden will be dropped. Howarth won't start again, even though he was man of the match, all that sort of stuff. And in actual fact, Michael made a massive statement. I'm glad you picked up on that, actually, because I meant to and haven't done. What a statement. We lost 1-0 against a team who were bottom of the table. Have some of this. There's the same team again. And they go and win 4-0 away from home. And that really is that, isn't it? Yeah. Michael would never do that, but it's also like he sat in the dugout when that fourth goes in, just going like that to everybody.
For those audio listeners, Gary is wiping his middle finger up and down his cheek.
Yeah, sorry, I forget. Ben, you are now tasked with every time I do something visual, explaining it to the audience.
Okay.
As long as we don't do anything around Areola Grande, we'll be okay. Kev Barwise, interesting point I'll pick up on quickly before we move on. Am I the only one who thinks Mark Hone is an excellent co-commentator? No, you're not.
No, he's not.
No, I like
absolutely
Mark
not. No,
I like his commentary.
I mean, I think Mark Hone he brings something. Obviously, without going back into it, there's obviously the situation with Tomo, but I think Mark Hone brings something a little bit different. Obviously, he's got the experience of playing for Lincoln. He's got, I think he's got a lot of good knowledge and a lot of analytical knowledge as well about, he's able to pick up, little runs, little passages of play, and little things that happen are like away from the ball, so he can notice when players are rotating in and out and stuff like that. And yeah, it's good. I mean, I've seen a lot of people say he can be a bit too negative sometimes around certain players, or certain things that happen in matches. But yeah, I've not got a complaint with Mark. I think he's doing really well.
You'd have too much complaint if it was all rosy-eyed. My only complaint is that he still calls us Lincoln City all the time. And what I want is him either calling us, or with it being a BBC, just Lincoln. And let's have a look. Norfolk Imp says Marcone is an excellent commentator and better than the YTS. I don't know who the YTS is. Mark is solid. Paul Ellender can attest to that. And please, somebody got that. Reece Marshall, get you boys commentating. No chance at all. Can you imagine Ben having to research? Right.
I did think about this, like, at some point, that we should do a YouTube stream, like when everything's back, and we can actually be in the same place together. We should do a YouTube stream, kind of like the Fan Zone or whatever it was back on Sky Sports in the day. And you just have we'll watch the game and we'll do the commentary. So if anybody wants to watch it, we can stream that on YouTube of just the commentary. They can pause it and then play it alongside. But judging by your reaction, that's probably not going to happen.
It's moving into Arsenal Fan TV territory. And, I got Martin Green, who doesn't watch but always comments, basically said that I was no better. Stacey West blog was no better than Arsenal Fan TV, and I personally think Arsenal Fan TV are wankers. So I don't ever want to be in that stream. Interestingly enough, and I'm not quite sure how it's going to work yet, I've actually got a phone call planned with a prominent former Lincoln City character. I'll say no more, about a platform they're developing to allow fans to remote watch games at the same time. I know nothing more, but it might be something that we can get involved in. So we move on? According to my time list, we're already 3 minutes over and we haven't even done the Burton preview yet.
That's all right.
So for the Burton preview, we are going to bring in Jake Tong. Now, I think I'm looking at the little picture. I think Jake may have missed the memo about the hats. So a sombrero on. Now, unfortunately, I also think that his internet connection.
Oh dear!
I think his internet connection is such that I can't actually hear him. Jake.
Oh dear!
Oh no! Oh, here he is.
Gary.
There he is.
I am here.
You're just about coming on. Ben, what I'm going to do, if it's all right, see if it improves the feed, is to drop you out for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's fine.
So we'll see. Is that any better, Jake?
Oh, mate. Yeah, I can hear you now. Guys.
Okay, we'll see how we go. So, Jake, obviously, we're going to talk about.
Oh, dear.
Hello. I'm going to have to drop Jake out because unfortunately there's a time delay and everything.
There's a bit of a delay there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I'll see if his internet picks up in a little while. So we're going to try and bring Jake in a little bit later on for a chat about a game he's picked. So hopefully his internet will have picked up a little bit better from there. So Burton Albion on Boxing Day. Ben, if you can hold up your research just so we know that we're not talking about the same thing. Like on Countdown where they compare the answers. Wow, you even have a blank piece of paper in front of you. Fantastic. So Burton at bottom. They've won 2 games all season in all competitions, oddly against Accrington and Charlton, which are both decent sides. So they are capable of springing a surprise. But I would argue, like Northampton, it's a game we really should be winning. But I think that what we've got to do is probably put to one side the obvious, which I know that we're going to talk about because you had a man crush. You've got to kind of put that to one side and think, let's take Burton Albion as they are. Let's take them at their face value and how they're doing this season. And that's badly. Now, they have got decent players, but they've got players for me that are probably on the slide. Kieran O'Hara in goal is a decent goalkeeper. I'll grant them that. Stephen Quinn, probably at his best last season. I mean, he's certainly been there and done it, playing the holding role for them. Lucas Akins up front, decent striker. his day. Charles Vernon didn't really make it at Grimsby. I think he had 6 good months at Grimsby, and I think he's their leading scorer. Former imp Kieran Wallace is there as well. They play like a 4-1-4-1, so they're going to be quite defensive. Look, they're going to be perfectly happy to come to Lincoln for a point. So they're going to be hard to break down. And at times, I think when we're attacking, there's going to be very much the element of Shrewsbury in the second half. I can see it being 75% possession us, 25 them. They might look to break. The boy Akins can play anywhere on the park. I do like him. He's the guy that had a penalty saved against them when we played them last season, which we will touch on. So it's a game I'm really looking forward to, not least because we're doing Matchday Live from the stadium. So I'm really quite excited about that. But
Christmas
again,
treat for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not bragging about it because that's not how I am. I think it's humbling to be able to go, as I'm sure Bobs will attest to when we bring him on as well. So, what are your feelings, Ben, about Burton?
It's another one that, on paper, it should be at least a point. That's sort of very, very thinly veiled code for we should take all 3. Like you say, they don't seem to be. They don't really seem to have any consistency in, in gaining any points at least. So I think, for me, I think that the biggest disappointment is not being able to be at Sincilbank when obviously we can welcome back 2 players that did incredibly well for us. But at the same time, we're not there for nice memories, are we? We're there to win a match. And I think, having seen how ruthless we can be against a team that's not necessarily playing football in the best way possible, I'm quite looking forward to this one.
Let's not. I mean, let me just have a look at this. But let's not assume that they don't play football in a certain way. I mean, in their last game, they made, for instance, 505 passes. So then they're not going to be a Northampton getting the ball from back to front really quickly.
No.
They didn't make quite as many, to be fair, against Ipswich or Milton Keynes or Crewe. So, they're going to be more direct, but I don't think they're direct as in they're going to pump it long.
No.
But they're going to be compact. They're going to be hard to break down, and an early goal is massive because, again, I think the pressure builds when you're at home, even without the supporters there. And I think we saw that against Shrewsbury and potentially Wigan as well. That the longer a half goes on and the more patient you're being, I think it's harder to then get in that stride. And as we showed on Saturday, get the early goal, and then we can start playing our football, and the floodgates should open. So it'll be interesting. Just a few comments on Burton. So David Ellis asks, has Bozzy been playing of late? Well, he played in their last game against Doncaster, which they lost 3-1.
They played in the Ipswich game.
Yeah, so he has. Sorry, you've got a Bozzy hotline, have you?
I was going to say the only reason I know he played in the Ipswich game is because he was front and centre on the BBC News story about Burton and Ipswich both getting fined for not being able to control the players with a player around the throat.
Okay, so he's not changed.
No.
Neil Carr, never an easy game in this league, especially against teams fighting at the bottom. If you're not on it, you get beat. Shrewsbury, I think they might try and park the bus, 100%. Luke Kemson, I hate playing teams at the bottom. Might be something to do with having the pressure to win. Luckily, on Boxing Day, Lincoln will be playing them, Luke, so you are excused from that one. And apparently John Paul Stanley said that Bozzy gave away a penalty in the last game.
He did,
so.
yeah. Yeah, I saw that on the highlights.
Right, so just to get, because we did have Jake in a minute ago, and I've just seen in the private chat he thinks he's sorted it, so he's in Last Chance Saloon here. So we will bring Jake in and see if he has. How we doing, Jake?
Hello.
There's a slight delay. Delay, but we'll try and roll with it, I think.
Yeah.
Radio silence. Jake, what are your thoughts on the Burton game?
I think Burton will be a tough game. I think they're going to come for a point, definitely. I mean, if you can hear me, I'm not sure. But yeah, it'll be. As I said, the comment said they'll come and sit behind the ball and try and make it difficult for us. And they've got the worst defence in the league, which is something I think we can get at. So definitely consider being goals for us. based off Saturday. So hopefully we can get a positive result.
So, have you got an interview lined up with a Burton fan tomorrow?
Yeah. I've got a guy called Ed Walker who's on the D3, D4 football podcast, and these guys might have heard of it before. He's sort of a League 2, League 1 journalist, so I'm very much looking forward to that. He was rather scarred from Sunday's viewings, from what I remember against Doncaster. So hopefully we can pile on a bit more misery, because he was the miserable on that podcast, and hopefully we can do the same.
Smashing. And Jake, are you in Mexico?
Do you know what? No, I'm actually in Boston, but I couldn't find a Santa hat. I've got a Lincoln City Santa hat, but I can't find it. And I just saw a sombrero from university. I thought,
the sombrero was the next best thing.
I've actually got the matching. I've got the matching cape if you want to see it.
Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to move on to Peterborough, so we'll drop you out. But by the time we bring you out for your chosen moment, I expect to see you in the cape. Nice one. All right, Steve.
No worries.
See you shortly, pal. Right,
I did actually listen to that D3, D4 podcast that he was on about this week, and he's not a happy chappy. He is not a happy chappy about Burton's current situation.
Well, they're awful, aren't they? They'll go down.
Yeah.
I think if you're bottom at Christmas, no matter how many points it's by, you'll go down. And in only very rare instances, if you're in the top 2 or 3 at Christmas, will you not be involved in the hunt for the playoffs, even if it's going into those final kind of games of the season. So wonderful stuff. So that's the normal bit of the pod, and I appreciate that for people listening, and without the visuals it's not entirely normal, because we have a few teething problems and people coming in and out and all that sort of stuff. So what we wanted to do, it's obviously a Christmas special, and that's attested to by the fact that we've got the kind of the Christmas intro with the sleigh bells, which I did especially for it. So what we thought we'd do is kind of look back a little bit over 2020. So we'd get a couple of guests to pick moments. Ben and I would pick a podcast moment and a couple of other moments as well. We have got Bob's going to come in and talk. Jake's going to talk about a moment. We've got Dave coming in from America. And then we're going to close the show off at the end with a little special quiz for Ben, because he's such a great quizzer now, because he went on and won the boots. He's got them there as well. Of course he has. There we go.
There we go.
Two boots, both signed. I don't have a boot signed. What's the solution, readers? You can tell us in the comments.
Tell you what. If you can make it, let's see. If you can make it to February without being horrible to me on the podcast, you can have one of the boots.
From when?
From now.
From the end of the show. From the end of the show. Reece Marshall already knows his low light. He says the low light of his year listening was when I was talking about my PE teacher's pubic hair. I think that was probably a low light for quite a few people, to be honest. Look, the year started off in tremendous form. Neither of us picked this game because we both thought somebody else would do it. I spoke to George Grant about it last week, but we've got to revisit it because it's kind of our first big game of the new year as well. Started off with a 2-1 win against Peterborough. Yes. Yeah. Okay, that's where you jump in, Ben. And
sorry, no, I thought you had a video, and I thought you were queuing up the video. I forgot which videos you had.
Well, we got that one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the thing with that Peterborough game, I said to you that I wanted to throw that into it, into the mix, but not necessarily for the reasons that people are going to immediately think of. Obviously, hell of a game. George Grant's free kick at the end of it essentially led to 2 conceptions. Which is quite impressive. But I think the highlight and the standout moment of that game for me was Siriki Dembele coming on. And then
Siriki. Sorry. Siriki. It's Siriki. I thought you said Sir Ricky.
No. Siriki Dembele coming on. And then immediately walking off the pitch after being shown red 30 seconds later. And that, to me, kind of showed why we all loved Joe Morrell as much as we did. I think he was the kind of player that would draw people into those confrontations. And he, I think if you were being brutally honest about it, he's a nasty little bastard when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah, shithouse, wasn't
he? Yeah, but I think honestly, the game as a whole was it was summed up from that moment on. I don't necessarily think if Dembele had gone off, I don't necessarily think we would have gone on to win that game. But obviously, Grant's free kick is going to get all of the talk. I think it's just it's why it's featured in the intro to Matchday Live. I think it's just brilliant.
Funnily enough, when you ask George Grant about that game, the first thing he talks about is Siriki Dembele getting sent off. It's the first thing he talks about, and then he talks about his free kick, and that's available in the Matchday programme against Burton Albion, which you can all social media. We'll move swiftly on because it was a great start to the season, but obviously we've got a few bits and bobs queued up, and to spare Jake having to look anything like a Mexican, we're going to talk about a moment he's picked. Now, I can run some VT, but we can talk over it then, so you don't have to stay silent. Excuse me.
I think you're going to have to stay silent with that beer bin coming back on you.
I know. I'm actually thinking about how I can get out for a toilet break. So we're going to bring Jake in, like so. Jake, tell us why you've picked this game.
For fuck's sake.
Obviously, it wasn't for the... obviously, it's not for football. It was for the fact that Steve Evans was gobbing off all game, managed to get a bit of he got much Michael Appleton, and Michael Appleton bit back a little bit.
So I'm sorry, Jay, I'm going to have to drop you out of the feed because it's cutting out so bad, mate. And it's obviously just really tough to hear Jake. So basically, Jake's picked the Gillingham draw 0-0, which was an atrocious game. Teo Eden was sent off right at the end. But he's picked it basically for Steve Evans being put in his box. And now that's a big box. Steve Evans probably being put in, let's say, a shipping container. But it was a great moment, wasn't it, Ben?
Oh, absolutely. I think seeing somebody that full of, of bluster and piss and vinegar and just sort of, strolling up thinking that he owned the place to basically be bitch slapped down by somebody that would terrify anybody if they walked into a bar without knowing who they were. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because you could see it in Steve Evans' face that he was going, "Oh, I'm gonna shout my mouth off here. I'm gonna go mental, and it's gonna be horrible." Obviously not that picture, but he was really, really getting into it, and going both barrels at Michael, and he just the way that Michael just sort of turned around and said, "Yeah, maybe sit down and shut up. It should be all right." He just didn't move, didn't budge, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And of course, any Lincoln City manager that has a go at Steve Evans, or as Michael said, put him in his box, it's going to be a winner, isn't it?
I think it was a matter of fact way it happened as well.
Yeah,
I think it was that matter of fact. He had something to say. I can't remember the exact words, Boozer, and I put him back in his box. So I thought it was great. Massive apologies to Jake. Obviously, really, really difficult. He said, "Sorry, boys, difficult to connect all the way from Mexico." So there we go. And Sam Mashu says, "Can you try McGrandle's boots on?"
Well, they're a 9.5.
You don't sound sure. Can you read?
They're a 9.5, so I might possibly be able to fit them, but I've got fat feet, so I've got fat everything. But
no, you haven't. No, you haven't. There, can I have a boot? So right. So
he's trying to get one of the boots. That's what it is.
The next pick is one I've picked, actually. It's Burton Albion beating them 3-2. All of the photos, by the way, are provided by Bobs, who we're going to bring back in now. We're not. We're bringing in a Pearl Jam picture. There we go. He's got a sombrero as well. I like that very much. So for those who are listening audio only, that's a tequila bottle from Bob's.
Oh no.
So talking about Burton Albion, obviously I'll pop some of the pictures up as well. I mean, obviously last time that the stadium was full, I've picked it for that, which I'll come on to in a minute. But from your point of view, Bobs, do you remember much about the game?
Not really, because obviously it was late that I could get on here tonight. I do remember in the home game, particularly, that we had fans in. But I do remember, I think I only got one of Hopper's goals, didn't I?
There we go.
I don't think I didn't have much luck with the goals that game. But that's the sort of picture I like, though, where the celebrations in front of the fans. Like, that's one thing that's definitely. It's 9 months since then.
I think
it's hard to describe. It's just so quiet. It's just so quiet. I mean, I've never even been to pre-season games or any sort of. It's really just so quiet. It feels like you're playing football yourself and you're sitting on the bench waiting to come on. You know, on a Sunday league game, but there's no fun. It's just awful. It really is awful.
I think that's
I can't wait for the fans to get back.
No, I think that's the thing for me, Bubs, is like when you see the photos that you put up of that side of it, when you've got the players all celebrating with their backs to you and the crowd in front of you, it's that point you really get the understanding of just like, oh Christ, this is big. Like, you've got the players that obviously they love playing for the club, and we love the fact that they're playing for the club. It's just those, like you say, they're my favourite pictures that that they get put up as well.
The best way I can describe it is that going to matches at the minute is really just watching 22 players kick a ball around. Really feels just like that. But with the fans in, it makes it an event. Yeah, the whole thing about meeting up with people beforehand with a couple of pints and stuff, like something to meet up yourself and Gary outside the ground and all that sort of stuff. Now it's just turn up, park the car, sign in, go and sit in the stands till the game starts, take pictures, and immediately bugger our phone. There's just nothing about it that feels like a normal football game. It really is just watching two players kick. And like I said earlier, it's just an absolute crying shame because the success we've had over the last few years and the way the crowds have been, nearly full stadiums, the way we're playing at the minute, second top of the League One, it would be full every week. And games against like Sunderland, I know we got beat 4-0, but I think if Johnson had scored 2 goals that he should have done, it might have been a different game, but we got beat deservedly. So I think I don't. Yeah. And then you thought we'd come back against Shrewsbury. If we got a point there, we'd be top now. Just an unbelievable position.
Yeah,
this club, you know what I mean, and stay around about here for the rest of the season. Imagine being in the championship next season. God, you know what I mean. But for the fans who normally turn up in the droves, let's say droves, to not be able to witness it, it's a really crying shame. Real crying shame.
I mean,
Gary asked earlier about what my highlight of the season would be this year, 2020, and the shit year we've had, is when Terry messaged me to say, yes, you can be able to come to games this season. It really was, because Gary knows how much I enjoy doing this. And to be able to carry on doing it, fantastic for me.
Yeah. I mean, do we think that obviously with the situation that it is, do we think this is going to be the first season that we're not going to be able to see in person this entire team?
I can't now. The way things are going now with this new strain and all that sort of thing, I can't see fans being back at all this season.
No.
I cannot see it at all. A few weeks ago, I would have said maybe by Easter, but I can't see it at all now. I'll be very surprised. Very surprised. Because everywhere is going into higher tiers now, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah. I mean, it is a massive shame, and hopefully, hopefully it can all be turned around, and we can get things back on track soon enough, and like you say, hopefully get in for at least one game before the end of the season. But I'm not hopeful, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I'm going to bring something up visual now, and it's so for listeners, it's going to be tough. Bubs and I go back quite a long way, and he's been doing the photos for the Stacey West for 4 or 5 years now, 4 years, 5 years potentially. But every so often he sends me a selection of pictures that are not from particular games, just a selection of pictures. And I've got an album on my computer which is titled Bub's Picks of the Decade. And at the turn of 2019 to 2020, he sent me some pictures, and I've just had a look at one and uploaded it while we've been talking. I wanted to put up.
Love it.
Do you know what? it's not, for those that are looking, it's Barnet away a couple of years ago in the conference. It's not a packed stand. It's nothing like that. There's Chopper, I think, right in the middle there. But it's, you know, it's moments like that I think it's all about. And to be honest, you know, for me, Bubs' photography kind of brings that. It brings the games to me that I'm not at. And I think that it must be really tough just going and photographing empty stands. But what I wanted to ask Bubs is, you know, you've been a photographer for so long. Aside from the obvious, aside from the cup finals and the with the games where we've won titles, are there any games that stand out for you that might not be obvious for any particular reason?
Oh, off the top of my head.
A great listen as well when I ask a question that stumps people.
Yeah. Straight off the top of my head, you know what? I think more recently, is the first game when we at Southport, the last game at Southport, to sort of close the circle.
Yeah.
It was also, I loved Alan Power. I thought he was great. I would love to have seen him play for us in the league, even if it was just as a bit part player in that third season back. So that was his first and last game. But that last game there, that celebration, just get back in the league. See people going about the Cowleys and what they did for the club, which was fantastic. But when they got us back in the league, it was enough for me. That was right. You're going to be legends for me forever because you got us back in the league. And I couldn't see that happening. I really thought I'd never ever photograph Lincoln back in the league again because the first 5 years were shit. We were terrible, you know what I mean? We were playing. It was just so other games. I don't know. I suppose the FA Cup third round at Bolton Wanderers, because it was such a difficult journey to get there in the snow that I arrived.
Christ, yeah, when it's chucked it down with snow, didn't it?
It was one of them where this was an occasion where you don't see it very often in the third round of the FA Cup. So that one is a one that sticks out.
Just going back to that Barnet game, a couple of people that Pete featured in the pictures. Chopper's watching. 20 minutes after the game, that picture was taken.
Actually, that game, it was one of the few things that Nolan ever did for us. Would score that equal, and it was an equaliser. It wasn't to win the game. Right in injury time, right in the last minute, and obviously the Lincoln fans went crazy. And when I was taking those pictures, the stewards tried to cut me off the picture. I was inciting the fans to celebrate because I was taking the picture. Thought, no, mate, they're just celebrating if I'm stood here or not. And I thought that was one of the bit weird things. Stewards sometimes come up with some weird things, and that was one of them. Just
before we wrap this bit up, Bubs, as well. You've got a bit of form for inciting fans, haven't you, as well? Aren't you one of the only photographers I know had to serve a 2-match ban?
Yeah. Bad history, but that was I was told about it, but it was something I couldn't resist. Exeter, when we scored right at the end, just went over to take some pictures. Generally, it's just a photographer to take some pictures of the Exeter fans' faces because they just lost the game. But they were giving me the finger and all that sort of stuff. So I just, as Ben has done in the Milton Keynes particularly, I just cut my ear like that when I walked away. It's caught on camera. So I got banned. We're just fair enough at the club, you know, that we have to be careful. That I do represent the club, so I have to be careful at times. And that was one of them. But that was funny. But it actually hurt, not because of getting banned for 2 games, because I had to go to Forest Green and pay that get 20 quid to watch Lincoln play, and that really, really hurt.
I remember catching up with you before the game then, and you were absolutely stewing.
Oh, I've hated. I'm going to regret the rest of my life that I had to give that sod 20 quid. I really, really, really hated that.
We're going to have to move on. Look, Bubs, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on, mate. And what we'll do is we'll get you on for a recorded podcast for a full episode fairly soon.
Cool. Glad 100%. I could pop in because I would have been at the game.
Yeah.
It was postponed, so I could pop in. Nice to see you, lads. Good luck.
See you later, Bubs.
I hope to see you soon.
Maybe see you Boxing Day.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye.
Okay, mate. See you later.
Right,
Cool.
we're miles behind schedule, so I'm gonna just briefly mention that we have to pick our top podcast moments as well, and me, in a rather cruel and unusual turn of events, chose the only really podcast action that didn't involve Ben.
I expected it.
For me, the highlight was the Moses Swabu interview. It's not really a podcast moment; it was probably a live broadcasting moment, and I think it's more because Moses trusted me, us, the Stacey West brand, to kind of make some really quite interesting revelations about his career at Lincoln and that sort of thing. And it was also really nice because obviously post Burton, we moved into this mad, crazy world that we haven't emerged from yet, where we can't go to the games and where, fans need connecting in some way, which we've tried to do for a long while. And I just felt that was a kind of one of those moments where didn't bring joy, but it was something that people could go, actually, I'll watch this and it will make me forget for maybe just half an hour about the utter shit that's going on in the outside world. And also that kind of thought of Moses Swabu stealing chickens and newspapers and fixing games. Actually, when you take away the caricature and you put the person there and hear their story, it was the closest I've ever come to actual journalism. I think so. I was quite pleased with that. And moving on a little bit further, the next moment is mine as well. Now, I've picked a summer moment here. 1 second. Fee. There we go. I've picked a summer moment here. And it is when Liam Bridcut signs. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to kind of rewind it all the way back to the day that the retained list was announced. It's even been poured for me, bless her. And that kind of moment where you read nobody's being retained. There is no Neil Erdley, there's no Michael Bostwick, there's no Josh Vickers, who arguably Josh would have been a decent keeper at this level. And it's that kind of thought of what's happening here. And we put positive spin on it, and we talk about how these players, 2 or 3 of them maybe we would have kept, but others we wouldn't. I'll probably still stand by that. But then you step into the unknown. You form a bond with your football club. You form a bond with the players. You recognise them. You see them every week. They're like fringe members of the family that you don't talk to or have any interaction with, unless you're Ben and Harry Toffolo. But you know what I mean. You don't. They feel like that. These people, like George Grant, smiles at me every day from my screen because he's scoring against Charlton, but it feels really familiar. And when that's taken away, there is a disconnection. And there was somebody on social media who posted something about, I don't feel a connection to this squad, and people jumped on her because she said she was going to stop going to watch Lincoln. But that lack of connection was always a worry at the back of my mind, of everybody's mind. Thank you very much.
See, you get waitress service. I just had to bring a few cans up and stick them on my desk. Although, in her defence, she is currently wrapping the Christmas presents, so
my fiance loves me more than your wife loves you. So
yeah, sounds about right.
Even when we started making signings, again, there was a little bit of a thought that who's this guy kind of thing. When Lewis Monsma signed, we know now what he is. When you sign a defender from the Dutch second division, there is that feeling that who's this, who's that. Rachel bringing you cans now. Is that what she's doing? What she brought you? She brought you chocolate.
She just bought me the rest of the beer.
So she's watching downstairs. Look, that's quite sweet because she's trying to show you that she does love you as much as Fee loves me. So anyway, when Liam Bridcut signed, that was the first sign for me that in actual fact, this Lincoln City team does mean business. We're not going to be just a collection of cast-offs and freebies. And, that's never what we were. I'm going to pull that down. That's never what we actually were. But that was always the fear. But for me, signing Liam Bridcut when you're a League One side, even if he doesn't play every game through injury, that was absolutely huge. And when you heard him say he could have gone elsewhere, which I don't doubt for 1 second, he could have gone elsewhere. For more money, but he bought into the project. And it's not the first time that I realized it, but it was one of those earliest times where you thought, hang on a minute, this might actually mean something now. We might actually be on a journey. If Liam Bridcut thinks that it's worth coming to Lincoln City, we're not going to be in the bottom 4 because a player of his stature wouldn't come and be in a club that was on its arse. And I think that was why I've picked that as one of my moments.
Yeah. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. I mean, I had an off the record text message just beforehand from somebody who shall remain nameless, kind of hinting at it and said, obviously it's not going anywhere, which it didn't. And, it was just that moment of like, oh, holy shit, this is going to be, this is going to be big. And it was, like that, like you said, signing him from Forest of all places, coming down. And I've got a Forest fan at work, and, we chat about stuff fairly regularly. And I think he's one of the ones that's clamoring to re-sign George Grant and Brennan Johnson. But, it's just that moment when you go, we actually might mean business here. And I don't think we really took it that seriously until we started putting the results together. And obviously, Christmas is in 3 days and we're joint top of the league. So fantastic stuff.
Cool. Now, the next moment that we were meant to talk about was our. So your lovely wife has now commented and said she's watching for the insults to Ben. So basically, Rachel, what I'm going to say is Ben's made me an offer that if I don't insult him until February, he will give me one of his boots. If I insult him until February, will you send me one of his boots? Because it seems like a decent trade-off to me. But Ben is right. David Ellis says you've won the furriest hat award.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Good job it didn't say furriest helmet.
I'll take that.
So the next chat was meant to be the 4-match unbeaten league run at the beginning of the season, Charlton, Oxford, Blackpool, by Cornell. But I haven't heard from Cornell, and he's not watching either. So he's missed his chance to come on the Stacey West podcast. But he does have his own podcast, the Badman Ting podcast, I think it is, or the Imps Ting podcast. So one day we will collaborate.
Indeed.
But it was a blistering start to the season, and it runs us into the first of your picks, Ben, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the first pick for me was the Liverpool Cup game. I mean, it was a moment that really needed fans in the ground, and I think a lot of people were obviously incredibly disappointed. Oh my good lord!
I need a haircut for those listening at home, but the hat's making my head sweat. So
yeah, I think I might drop mine off in a minute as well. But yeah, it was one of those. It was a game when we needed fans in, because there aren't that many times when you're going to be able to play the current champions of England and the world champions, if you want to go down that road as well, at your home ground. And unfortunately, it was genuinely heartbreaking that we couldn't be in the ground. But I think the scoreline probably, I don't want to say flattered them, because they are the champions of England, but I think it was probably a little bit harsh on us at the end when it 7-2 is the way it finished. But it was that fact that we scored 2. It was the fact that we got those 2 goals. And I remember you saying at the time that you were privileged enough to be at the ground, and when Teo scored, you'd celebrated like we'd won. And it was the fact that we were able to pit our wits against, admittedly, second string Liverpool side, but they still had Minamino playing. It's that kind of, you still have Virgil van Dijk playing. It was still that moment that we had that chance to prove ourselves against a top side. And I can only just think, what could have been.
Agreed. We actually might be able to get Cornell on. I'm not quite sure if I can reply to him or not. Just 1 second, Cornell.
So I'll introduce the next one.
You haven't let me talk about
Liverpool. Go on then.
So yeah, I did cheer Teo Edens. The thing is, I'd put a bet on. I'd put money on that Liverpool would win. I think it was Liverpool to win by 5 goals, but I had Lewis Monsma to score any time. And Teo Edens scored, and I just exploded. And a guy from Commercial came from the box 2 doors down and kind of said, is that it? Is your bet come in? And it's like, no. It's like, oh, you're just that happy that we've scored. It's like, yeah, obviously. Yeah. And for me, it was an exhibition game. Those games are, because you don't expect to go into them and win. And when you see, I mean, you mentioned Van Dijk, but there was Shaqiri played for them, I think, as well, didn't you? Say Minamino. I mean, they were not at full strength, but they were at the sort of strength that if they play that team every week in the Premier League, they'd finish fourth or fifth. And they were on good form as well. There was a lot of players with a lot to prove. But it was just the fact that we went out there and we gave it a good go. And I would rather lose 7-2 than 4-0. I'd rather lose 7-2 than 2-0 and just defend. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather we give it a go. And I think that was one of the first times that we saw Michael Appleton. Actually, we saw his philosophy being consistent. We'd seen in early games against Charlton, against Oxford, we knew how he was going to play. We knew he was going to make no concession for the opposition. Okay, you might let them have more of the ball, but he was still going to go for broke. He was still going to attack. He was still going to push forward. He proved that against Liverpool. And in actual fact, I think, did we draw the second half 2-2?
I think so, yes, because we came out and we really attacked it.
Yeah. So that was. I understand why you picked it. For me, it was an exhibition game, and I would probably have rather tried to be too cool at school and gone. Actually, we'll go with Blackpool. But yeah. So go on now. You can talk about what you were going to do.
So yeah, I mean the next one for me, it was something that I don't think, if we were both brutally honest, I don't think we ever thought would have happened, just about 2 years ago. But it was podcast 100. We obviously did the first live one that we're doing, doing a similar one now, sat in this chair, probably having a little bit too much to drink. But yeah, it was genuinely special. And then when you sort of turned around and said, I think within a couple of minutes there was about 130 people watching or something like that, I was just blown away by that. It was really quite special. I was genuinely got a little bit emotional towards the end as well. Again, probably because I had a little bit too much to drink, but it was the fact that I can't remember who it was that commented in here earlier. We've been able to help people and keep people amused with our talk about a club. But yeah, it was just genuinely special. And I think the fact that the club also posted the cartoon from Chris beforehand, it was a special day, that one. It really was. There we are. Yeah, really, really enjoyable day, enjoyable show, and here's to many more.
And it was only 9 episodes ago. It feels like ages ago, doesn't it?
I know, it's crazy. This year, it feels like everything has taken forever, but also happened in a really short space of time.
Philosophy with Ben Ward.
I think
that brings me, before we go on talking about anything else, I think that brings me to a special treat for everybody. Okay, Ben doesn't know what this is, but this is a special treat for everybody. When we think back over the podcast, 109 episodes, I sat there thinking, what is it that people would love to be able to hear again? What is it? Which one moment from the podcast would people go, do you know what? That was so brilliant the first time I heard it, and I haven't heard it again. And if you're suffering from insomnia, then do I have the cure for you? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ben's analogy after the Oxford 6-0 defeat in 2019. Enjoy.
I said this on social media in the week. It reminded me of a hangover, like a really bad hangover where you've had a great night out, and our night out actually lasted about 3 years, and then you get up the following morning and you've got a raging headache. You don't want to do anything. You can't move, which was the it starts in the taxi home, doesn't it? Your hangovers, really. So the Wickham game, when you're on your way home, it's like that's your first bit of your hangover. Then you've got the Bristol game where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're actually not that great and we don't feel really good at the moment. Then you've got the game on Tuesday night. First half was dire. I don't think anyone's going to. Well, we said as much last week. First half wasn't great at all. And then you have a shower. Like when you have a shower and when you've got a hangover, you suddenly feel like you're ready to take on the world. And you're like, oh, I feel brilliant. I can do this. And you have about an hour where you feel absolutely perfect. An hour shower was at half time on Tuesday night. And then after that hour's up, you suddenly realise, oh no, my liver's really kicking my arse at the moment. And that was Saturday. And then you just want to crawl and go to bed, which I think most of us did on Saturday afternoon. But
Jesus, that was a long analogy.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Sorry. Well, yeah. But Jesus Christ. All right. I try.
You've thought that one through, haven't you? Have you written it down on 3 pieces of A4?
Now, that was actually meant to provide cover for me to go for a toilet break, but it didn't fill the whole screen, so I couldn't go anywhere.
You utter prick.
We literally lost 11 people while that was on watching. Literally 11 people have gone. Jake Tong, he's asleep. He's got his sombrero over his face. He's gone. Rachel's remembering now why she shouldn't have brought you any more beers, or maybe why she should have put some zoppies in your beer and send you to sleep. Kay Jackson working overtime. That's the first yawn. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? It's you again, Ben.
No.
Ben. Oh, go on.
Go on.
Honestly, we're going to home. Come on. Why'd you pick this one? Is it a decent one you can remember?
You're not getting a fucking boot now, I tell you. No, it was the game where I think a lot of people were, we obviously went 1-0 down, and I think a lot of people were probably questioning whether the side had the bottle to go on and recover from going down to a team that we probably should have been beating. And I think the second half really was just something else. Like it was almost like he just put a rocket up at half time. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, but it was just fantastic. Like to turn around and come out and win the way that we did. And obviously the other thing as well, I was so happy for Tom Hopper to get one. It was a great second half, and it showed the character that I think some people might have been questioning was missing, and a lot of people seem to, obviously the Cowley years, we were, particularly the year that we won the National League, it was very much a case of I think you've referred to it before as almost the crazy gang, with the teams that with the club that don't necessarily have the most talent, but with everything else combined, it kind of gives something else. So yeah, I think that to me showed that we have that as well as the talent now.
I think it's a good point you make, to be honest, and I actually think it's a great pick. And it could have been that one, it could have been Blackpool away, because I think it look at those pictures twisting about your fist. I think that it showed again the character, it showed the other side of things. You go out, you thump Forest Green 6-2, you thump Bradford 5-0, you're dominating the game, you're creating chances, it's beautiful to watch. And look, we're not always resistant to those sorts of games. Shrewsbury went behind and we didn't fight back. But it was one of those games where we were poor, to be honest. It was a tepid game. We didn't play well. We went one behind, and it's at that moment you think this team could crumble, this team could struggle. And quite right, we came back and we fought, and we did really well. It had a wonderful, wonderful moment from George Grant, who, for me, is probably, if you had to pick a star player, for me, it's probably George Grant at the moment. He does a little bit of everything. When you've got a player that can play left wing, attacking central midfield, central defensive midfield, or DCDM or whatever they call it on Football Manager. I don't know. I don't have the patience anymore. He's flexible, and then absolutely Tom Hopper. And you know what? I feel it patronising a little bit when I say, I was delighted for Tom, because it's like saying, I was delighted for, the shit kid that plays up front who never gets dirty because he got his goal in an 11-0 win, which is me, by the way, at 13 level. I feel he's patronising to say that, because in actual fact, I don't think that Tom Hopper judges himself on his goals, and I don't think Michael Appleton judges Tom Hopper on his goals. But I think as a striker, he's judged on his goals by supporters.
Yeah.
Your hair looks effortlessly cool, by the way, when your hat comes off.
I mean, it really doesn't. It just looks like someone's dragged a mop through a hedge and used a rake on it or something. I think Gaz's internet is coming in and out a little bit, but he's going a bit blurry.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're good. You're good.
Well, in that case, we'll give my internet a little bit of a rest, and we'll bring in, because we're going to talk about Wigan and we're going to talk about Rochdale, we'll drop me out and we'll bring in Dave Johnson. So I'll drop you first, Ben, just to introduce Dave and say hello.
Just because you need a wee?
No, not at all. No, I'm not going to go for a wee.
Because I do.
Okay, well, I'll drop you out now. You go for a wee. And it's all me. Yay! And now we'll bring in Dave. Now, first of all, Dave, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on, my friend. How are you?
Not bad. How are you? How was my audio? The last time I did the match day live or something, my audio was awful. Is it levels fine?
It's low at the minute.
Is that better?
It's an absolutely perfect feed.
Okay. We'll leave it there.
We'll work with it, mate. We'll work with it. Don't worry at all.
I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm a huge fan of the show.
No, it's brilliant to have you on. Obviously, you've been everywhere this year as well. I mean, what's it like?
Except Lincoln. Everywhere except the place I want to go.
Do you remember much from the Wigan game?
From seeing the highlights, obviously, yeah. I feel like that was the game where I first. I'll tag on to what Ben said, but that was the first game where I felt like we really showed like our resolve, like where we had a little bit of adversity and then overcame it. And I think that was the first real test where we showed we had the medal, I think.
Wonderful stuff. I mean, we'll touch on your choice in a moment about Ben. Just 1 second. Ben, have you not gone to the toilet yet? I thought you were going to the toilet.
I did.
think he did.
Oh, okay. Oh, we'll lose you again then. I enjoy talking to Dave. I'm really interested, like an American so massively into soccer as you are as well. I mean, what sort? Because you obviously there's massive challenges to being a fan. You're having to get up early in the morning to watch games. You're having to stay up late, all that sort of stuff.
Well, I guess it's a little different for me now, as opposed to prior before I worked night shift. I work night shift from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. And if most Lincoln games for me are at 9 in the morning. So if I work from 5 a.m., I have to stay up until 11 a.m. the next day. Or if I work 5 p.m., I usually get up at like 4 p.m., 3:30, 4 p.m., get ready for work because I usually like hop on at 4 because we're working from home during all this. And then if I get off, normally 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock, I'm in bed 7:30, 8 o'clock. I try to be. And that'll give me like 5 to 6 hours before my next shift. Well, if Lincoln plays at 9, I'm up till 11:30, and then I sleep from noon roughly until 3. So I get 3 hours on a game day where I work on the actual night of the game. If the games are at, I think we've played a couple that were at like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, my time. Those are like perfect. If we could have more of those and less of the, I guess it would be 3 p.m. games for you guys. If we could have less of those and more of the late evening games, that would be more ideal for me. But yeah, it's sleep deprivation is probably would be the motto of my soccer fandom.
And I follow American, I say soccer. It pains me, obviously. But I mean, I follow it a little bit. Do you have any MLS team near you or any other team, some local team?
I'm about 2.5 hours south of Kansas City, which America is really far spread out. 2.5 hours is I don't know, 150 miles or so. That's the closest team. But I think they just got a team in St. Louis, which I live. If you picture Kansas City and St. Louis here, I live here. So I'm like right in between both of them. So I could pick either or. But the MLS really it doesn't do anything for me because I really hate the US youth system, because a reason why the US is so far behind developing, and now I feel like we're catching up, but for the better part of a decade and a half, we weren't starting because of the college system here was essentially America's youth system. We didn't have clubs that had youth teams. So you have people starting their careers at 23 when they graduate college. Like that's literally 6 years behind. Like we can't compete on the world stage when we're already 6 years behind. So, but the MLS it's a lot better now. I mean, they're actually getting players who aren't 40 and retiring now. I mean, there's a lot of good young talent that are being watched by big teams in Europe. I know we have Weston McKennie at Juventus, and I think they're also looking at one of FC Dallas's players right now, a young right back. I forget his name, but yeah, MLS really doesn't. I'm a huge U.S. men's national team fan, but MLS really doesn't. I'm not an MLS guy.
Because I actually follow the international game quite a bit, and obviously just thumped El Salvador 6-0, predominantly with young MLS-based players as well. So, I mean, there was a young lad called, is it Brennan Anderson, possibly? I seem to think. But there is a hope after missing out on the last World Cup that perhaps the next one, I know this is meant to be Lincoln City, but...
No. Yeah, I mean, it's El Salvador. So the thing people in Europe don't really understand about the CONCACAF is just because there's a huge difference in play quality with US and Mexico and even Canada lately being, kind of jumping into that tier with Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David for Canada. But the US and Mexico have kind of separated themselves over the last, 15, 20 years of being the top tier. But even though the quality of pitches, the type of play, the refereeing, like everything is equalized in CONCACAF, because you're playing in mudlog pitches, you're playing like in what would be probably like a Division 5 stadium when you're going to Trinidad and Tobago and Guatemala and Costa Rica and places like this. Like, it's not easy to get wins in these places. Now, granted, when they play in the US, it's a lot different because they're playing in better quality pitches and stuff like that. But it's a lot different, and people just look at, Costa Rica is ranked 80th in the world and the US is 20th. That should be some walk-off home run. Or, sorry to bring a baseball analogy, but it's very much equalized in the quality of pitch. The pitches that people play on, the environments are extremely hostile, and I don't mean like Serbia with Partisan and Red Star and things like that, but it's at the Azteca they throw bottles of urine from the stands at players, like it's extremely hostile over here. So, but yeah, I forgot your original question. Sorry.
No, it's absolutely fine. What we'll do, I'll bring Ben back in actually on that, because I could sit and talk to you about international football and America all day, and I forget other people are actually watching. So we'll bring Ben back in. He's been for a particularly long toilet break there.
No, I'd finished my toilet break the first time you brought me back in. Now, you just kept me in the green room, so it made it look like I had an extremely large job.
Now, Dave has picked his Lincoln City moment, and the reason he's on towards the end is because it's a really recent moment, and I have stolen a video that may infringe on copyright. So if that's the case, I'm sorry. I have taken the commentary off it and put Christmas tune on it. So this is what Dave's picked. And afterwards, I'll drop myself out of the feed, not to go to the toilet, to allow you guys to talk about it.
Oh, what fun it is to see Lincoln win away. That was Lewis Monsman's goal against Rochdale. Why have you picked that one, Dave?
It wasn't actually just the goal as why I picked it. Even though it was a beautiful goal. I mean, he picked up got the layoff pass from George Grant, stepped up 10 yards and banged it in, and it had, he knuckleballed it, and it dipped perfectly in front of the keeper. Like, beautiful goal. But the fact that we have everybody on the pitch minus Palmer is getting on the score sheet. Like, to me, that's incredible at this level to be able to have people that can contribute from anywhere on the field and from midfield. Like, I wouldn't say that was against the run of play. I feel like that was a game that we pretty much were in the driver's seat from the entirety of the game. But just to have Monsama have that kind of confidence and willingness to just bang the ball from 35 yards away is, to me, that's impressive. There's what, maybe 3 teams in all of League One that probably have a defender who can hit a shot like that. Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, it's just he's proven. I think, what is he on 8-9 for the season now?
I think he's 8. I think
nearly in double figures, and he's a centre back. Like, you don't get that sort of performance. I mean, there'd be some people.
How many teams have strikers who don't have?
I was going to say, that we've had strikers in the past that haven't been able to, hit 8 by Christmas, and we've now got a centre back that can do it. But it's good that you say that we're getting goals from all over the pitch, because I think somebody mentioned it. I can't bring in the comments. Monster on the knuckleball, so sweet. That's not me doing that. That is Gaz doing that. But Brian said about we judge Big John on more than his goals. Tom Hopper's work rate areas is far greater, and he deserves to score more. I think what's interesting there is the fact that when we had John Akindi as essentially a target man, that was kind of. He wasn't the target man kind of player, and a lot of people, would criticize him for not getting goals from open play. And I think, when we were talking about it on the podcast, we'd say those people almost seem to think that goals from open play counted for 2, stuff like that, where they were really getting stuck into him. But ultimately, when he finished, top scorer. But I think the thing is with Tom Hopper is that a lot of the pressure is being taken off him. in that, like you say, we're getting goals from all over the place. So we're getting a centre back who's got 8 goals already. We've got a player that's in midfield that's scoring penalties for fun when they're put when we're given the opportunity. We've got another got 2 players that with incredible pace that can again when they're on the day will score for fun in Scully and Johnson.
I have no complaints about Hopper not scoring. I mean, obviously I'd love him to score more, but that guy pressing is the key to us getting the ball back. Like he's step 1 of our press, like he does a fantastic job up front, I think.
Yeah, 100%. It's that thing about the number 9 shirt, isn't it? You get the number 9 shirt, you're expected to be banging in 20 goals a season, but there is so much more. And Phil said here, how about a monster shot at Crew after 30 seconds? Wow, what a centre half, £1 million, no less. I'd take no less than 10.
Yeah, I was going to say, I keep seeing this thing on Twitter about what we would sell Monsima for, what we would sell Grant for. Like, I don't know that there is a price tag that I want to see Monsima go. Like obviously the club vision is developing players and selling them for profit. Totally understand that, but not Monsima. Like,
it's that thing. You grow attached to players, don't you? You grow attached to players that would be able to
see him in person. That has to happen before you sell him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we touched on that with Bubs a little bit earlier on, that it's this whole idea that we might be able, we might not be able to get into the ground and see possibly one of the best Lincoln City sides ever, and it's coming around. But Gaz is coming back on, and he's shaking his head. Why are you shaking your head, Gaz?
I don't know. Best Lincoln City sides ever. I think you can only ever start judging a side as the best ever 5 or 10 years after they've played, because otherwise it feels crass when you're saying this side's the best ever when you actually watch.
I did say one of.
I would say most promising, especially in the era that I've watched. So the last 4 years, to me, this is the most highest potential team that we've had.
And I'm interested, we'll just wrap up, David, with you in a minute, but because you've also kind of undertaken a little bit of trying to look into the history as well. I understand that. I mean, we had a brief talk about Past Imperfect, I think, the history book, didn't we? How's that going?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
How's your delving into Lincoln City history going? Are you picking it up?
I have the One Hell of the Season book that I have not gotten to yet. My work is like insanely time consuming right now, but I got that. I have your book on the list. I think
the
mascot one. I have, I don't know, 10 other recommendations as far as stuff from people on Twitter and Instagram and things like that of what people have recommended to me. But man, I love just hopping on iFollow or YouTube and watching a game from 3 years ago. Like, it's awesome to me, like I load old Football Managers and go through the roster and simulate seasons and stuff. Like, to me, that kind of stuff is fun. It's a journey that I'm still on cloud 9 about. I love everything about the club. I mean, I'm sure you guys can tell from the way I talk about it or the interactions that we have. Like, it's brilliant.
Nope. Well,
there is actually in the Hell of a Season book, there is a really, because obviously it follows 2 clubs at the same time.
Boston, right?
Yeah, there's the Boston side of it and the Lincoln side of it. There is a chapter in there that, if you read it with kind of a critical eye on like the business side of football, your jaw will drop. It is tales of people meeting in car parks and all sorts. It's crazy.
On the other hand, Dave, for you, I have actually managed to bag a copy of Past Imperfect, which was the complete history that was on the internet for like 50 quid. Do you remember we had a brief conversation?
Oh yeah, it was like $99 or something for me to order it, and then it was like another $100 to ship it. So I think that's why I passed on that one.
It's going to be nothing now because I managed to get you a copy. So when you're ready for it, send me your address and I'll send it over to you for a read.
That's amazing. I appreciate that.
No worries. Look, mate, thanks for coming on. We'll get you on a full podcast soon, because we could talk all day about Lincoln City, I'm sure. Have a Merry Christmas, and no doubt I'll see you very soon.
You guys too. Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. Cheers, dude.
Bye. Now, I've just got to say, he is a top bloke.
Absolutely.
He really is. He understands the game, and I respect that in a country. I mean, I do a lot of writing for America, so I write about American football, baseball, basketball. Lots of my clients, that I write for are based in America. And there is sometimes a lack of understanding about soccer, and we have to call it soccer. But he gets it. Even just talking there, I think about selling players, about the first line of defence, about Tom Hopper, that sort of thing. And I kind of I respect that, and he puts the hours in as well. So we're hoping. I mean, we're nearing the end of the show now, but I was hoping to get Pete on for a special quiz. Now I know Pete's commented, so if he's watching, I'm hoping he's about to click the link because we are planning a little quiz for Pete and Ben. Because as we know, Ben is a Lincoln C supporter. He goes to watch Lincoln, but he's a Man United fan. And we know that Pete is a Lincoln City fan. He knows a lot about Lincoln City, but he's a Man United season ticket holder. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun? Wouldn't it be great fun to get Pete on against Ben and ask Ben questions about Man United and Pete about Lincoln? And now I've had 4 or 5 Elvis juices. It seems even more fun. But Pete's not coming on at the moment. So what else have we got on the list? I've got 5 to 10 minutes. End with a chat about next year. So look, in all seriousness, we'll take the Christmas hats off and look at where we actually are at the moment and where we were a year ago. And I think had we recorded this podcast a year ago, had we gone all out and gone, look, we'll do a live show, we would have been talking about promise but apprehension. We would have been talking about, Michael's got another man's tools, we would have been saying, and he's trying to do his job with them. There would have been a worry at the back of our minds potentially about a relegation battle. And that was part of why I picked the Burton game, because that was a game where actually we won that game and I walked out thinking we're not going to get relegated. Little did I know it didn't actually matter. But there's no fear of that now. We're not sat here now thinking come May we might be scrapping for our existence. What we're actually seriously thinking, with no irony whatsoever, is we could be in the Championship next year. I mean, how far have we come and how quickly? And Michael says we shouldn't. We're nowhere near the finished article. And the sensible part of me says we shouldn't be heaping pressure on this side. We shouldn't be developing that expectation. But the truth is, without take a couple of games out of it, we're bloody brilliant in a minute. 40% less budget, 15 fit years, and we outclassed Northampton. Okay, we struggled against Sunderland, but we've outclassed teams with bigger teams than us, better teams than us. We're second in the table at Christmas.
I mean, that what you just said there, we're second on the table on goal difference. Like, we're not even, we're not second outright. We're second on goal difference with a game in hand. I can't grasp it. I can't understand. Like, the rise has just been phenomenal. It's so easy to sit there and go, well, you look at Carshalton to now. It's like, well, that is the rise. It's been, like 2 seasons in League 2. This is our second season in League 1. Could we be going from like non-league to the Championship in 5 years?
Well, before we discuss that,
Pete's here, isn't he?
Before we discuss that. We've got a quiz. No prizes, just for fun, predominantly mine. But let's welcome in my friend Pete. He's hungry. He's just put the baby to bed. Baby being Thomas, who's not a baby, but whatever. How we doing, pal? All right?
Yeah, not bad. I'm sorry. I heard you say you were going to get me in, so I then went and sat, but didn't press done. So I've been sat there waiting, wondering why I wasn't being allowed in for the last 3 or 4 minutes. Now,
part of this quiz is obviously because you put Ben forward for a quiz the other day. Obviously, you wanted him to win.
I mean, it backfired massively, didn't it, Pete? Let's be honest, it backfired massively.
I didn't really think about it at the time, to be fair. There's no point putting know it all, is there?
At the mention of a quiz, John Paul Stanley has said, I think I just saw Ben's soul die. Oh, no. I thought I'd killed it ages ago. I can't believe it's still alive. So I'm not going to keep Pete too long because he hasn't eaten and he's starving, but he's drinking on an empty stomach, so I like to see that.
So am I.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're both equally disadvantaged then.
So, for those listening at home or whatever, we're now down now to 49, the lowest viewer count so far of the evening. I'm going to ask Ben 3 questions about Man United, and I'm going to ask Pete 3 questions about Lincoln City. Doesn't matter who goes first. So Pete's here; he's new.
So I'm answering questions about the football team that you support, and Ben's answering questions about the football team that he supports. Seems harsh.
Why don't we get Pete on more?
He's a prick.
Yeah, guilty as charged. I'm trying to deny that.
Oh dear.
Sorry, we'll be down to about 20. I'll shut up.
Yeah.
And Ben's wife's watching. She says, whatever Ben proclaims, he loves a quiz.
I do love a quiz. I just
He's
don't.
the one that's rigged against him.
That's what I'm worried about.
So, simple question. Pete, I'll start with you first. Who are Lincoln City's shirt sponsor?
Are these the same questions that Ben got in the quiz? Peregrine?
No.
Peregrine?
I think they might be.
Without being certain.
Peregrine. That's one to Ben. One to Pete. Damn the Elvis juice. Ben, nice and easy. Who are Man United's shirt sponsor?
Is it still Chevrolet?
Oh, that's 1-1. 1-1. David Johnson says, does the winner get Gary's signed boots? You know, my Barber Wellington boots that started.
I don't want anything that's been near Gary's feet.
Okay, question.
Surely.
Let me just check the answers. Okay, Pete. Who did Lincoln play on the opening league game of the season?
Oxford.
Is correct. Ben, who did Man United play on the opening league game of the season?
I've got no fucking clue.
Come on, it's a 1 in 19 chance.
Chelsea.
Oh, that's wrong. It's Palace. Pete Lee, unfortunately, Neil Carlton says the winner gets Gary's signed pants.
Bastard.
Well, Pete's won, so.
Well, Pete hasn't won because he's 2-1, and there's another question, and I might do a tiebreaker. So I'm going to say,
if the prize is your pants, I'm not going to answer it right, even if I know what the answer is.
Did you already have a pair? So the final question is, which Man United player has made the most league starts this season?
Marcus Rashford.
Pete, I'll give you a chance to compound the win. Which Lincoln City player has made the most league starts this season? One of two.
Has Palmer started every game?
Palmer has indeed started every. I can't believe I'm having to check. It's Palmer, Jones, and I think George Grant. Yes. So congratulations, Pete. You've won a signed pair of nothing
Your
at all.
pants. Yeah.
Dave Johnson has got the Man United question right. Harry Maguire.
Oh, okay.
Should have kept Dave in. He knows Man United more.
Unfortunately.
I mean, it's not surprising, consider that I don't support Man United.
You know that's not true. So, Pete, just quickly before we let you go and get some food, future's looking good for Lincoln?
Yeah. I was just watching the sort of people picking their highlights of the season. Actually, thinking about that Oxford game. Fixtures come out, no idea what's going on. Whole new squad. You look at the first few fixtures, you think this could be a really tough start for a really young team. Beat the team that I would have thought would walk the division this season, and all systems go ever since. So yeah, God, as long as you can keep the no more injuries, nothing to stop.
I mean, I think the thing is, we in our prediction podcast we said that we both thought that Peterborough would basically walk the league, and I think I picked Oxford to come second, and I think you had them in the playoffs, Gaz.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So it's to start off with, like you say, with Oxford, and then kind of have the run that we've had, despite the opposition that we've had. that to me was when I started thinking, oh, we're in a bit of dreamland here. But then to kind of continue that, yeah, it's a start I could never have predicted in a million years. And you know, you said earlier, Gaz, that you if you are in and around the top at Christmas, you're likely to legitimately be involved in the playoff hunt come the end of the season. And if we keep playing the way we are doing, I can't see us dropping more points than we gain, if I'm honest.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Good.
can't disagree.
Very good. Well, look, Pete, thank you very much for coming on. There obviously is no prize unless you class a phone call with me tomorrow while I'm walking the dog a prize. Probably not.
Punishment. I'll speak to you in the morning then, mate.
I'll give you a ring if you want, Pete.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Cheers, pal. Thank you for coming on.
Cheers, fellas. Bye.
Well, I think that's just about it, isn't it, mate?
Absolutely is, yeah. It's
One last prize for you.
oh no.
You'll love this. Look at my pajamas. For those listening at home, I've got Superman pajamas on.
I mean, to be fair, until about 5 minutes before we started recording, I had Buzz Lightyear pajamas on. So
you were going to tell me you had trousers on until 5 minutes before we started.
I've got shorts on now. So
oh dear. And I know that Superman is DC.
yes, he is. Well done, Gaz.
Spider-Man is Marvel.
Yes.
So I'm playing Spider-Man. A couple of comments. Phil Damesy's been watching all the time. Phil, I don't know what you've done wrong to have to watch us two all night, but thank you very much anyway. January is a big month. The board back Danny in the National League days. Will they do the same with Michael? He is made well ahead of schedule. Interesting talking point, Ben. But I'll pick up first of all. It's going to be tough for him to back him because they backed Danny in the National League on the back of an FA Cup win, knowing we'd got the trip to Ipswich as well. You know, the money was coming in. And I think, you know, it's pretty tough at the moment to say where the money's coming from. I mean, I'm on the supporters board. I can't breach any kind of confidence, but the financial, even with the bailout, the financial landscape isn't, you know, let's back the manager. It's let's survive. Let's have a team next season.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the discussion at the moment. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of clubs in that boat. So in terms of, you know, players potentially going, I don't see too much of a worry about players leaving for other teams in this division. It's where it's when teams above us, you know, in the Championship and in the Premier League are going to potentially roll the sleeves up and go, right, we're going to cherry pick players that we can develop further. It's that point at which, you know, is there going to be somebody like a Brentford coming in with, you know, a £10 million bid for somebody like an Ivan Toney? If that happens, we as a club, we just can't turn it down. And, you know, as much as I was talking to Dave earlier about you don't want to lose those players, you can't put a price on them. Is it going to be a difficult one to turn down if somebody comes in with a big money offer for any of the players?
We'll go on to. That's the method, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with, you know, obviously they talk about the method in terms of bringing in the young players, develop them, and then get shot of them for a profit. I think a lot of people took that to assume that process would probably take 3 or 4 years. But if somebody like Lewis Monsma comes in and turns around and goes, right, well, he's tearing the league up. He scored 8 goals by Christmas. You know, Lincoln have kept 10 clean sheets. He's a fucking centre back. That is going to be the kind of player that will attract big money.
He's the saleable one.
Yeah.
George,
at this moment in time, yes.
Yeah, George's contract is up in 6 months. I did wonder for a while if Sean Rowan was being left on the bench because there's actually a big money buy coming in for him. I did wonder that, whether that's the case or not. That's purely me. I don't know. But I did think. But Lewis is the one that teams are going to look at and they go, he can play out from the back, he can head,
Absolutely.
He can take rough stuff, he can score goals. If he goes, right, that is not a lack of ambition. That's as you show.
Oh, no.
Because if he goes, what we're doing is we're saying this is the model. He moves on, and okay, with the Brexit and all that rubbish, and we're not going to talk politics, but with all of that, we can't go out and get a Lewis Monsma from Dordrecht. But there's nothing to say that we can't find a Lewis Monsma elsewhere, for instance. And like here we see Brian Rundle, Jez George already looking for replacements. What about somebody coming for MA?
I mean, I think in terms of already looking for replacements, we've spoken to Clive and we've spoken to Liam before. There's always a contingency. There is always that discussion that's going on that says, if Michael left tomorrow, what's going to happen? If George Grant goes on the 1st of January, what's going to happen? If any member of the playing squad goes, what's the plan? It's not. I don't necessarily think it's like a turnaround that you'll say, right, well, is somebody going to come in for Michael? Like, undoubtedly, somebody will be looking at Michael Appleton. Undoubtedly, everybody would be looking at, every single member of our squad is undoubtedly being looked at by clubs in the Championship and the Premier League. There's no, maybe a few in the Premier League, but there's you've got that kind of level of ambition from the club that's been shown on the budget that Michael's got. There is no question that there will be teams looking at Michael Appleton going, he could do a job.
100%.
But I don't
think he'd go.
No, I was just going to say, I think he's got as much backing as he needs at the moment. And going back to the question about, is there going to be the backing for him in January? I think he's got the backing that he feels that he needs. He's been given the players that he wanted. He's been given the opportunity to get the players that he wanted. And I think unless somebody goes, I can't necessarily see too many people coming in January. And I think that's probably going to be a Michael decision rather than a board decision.
Loans, I think. Let's look at a couple of other questions. There's a couple from Dave. And like I said, at one point, we've got to get Dave on a full show because you know what? I'm not just going on. I'd really like the lad. I really do. First of all, is this the worst possible season to get promoted? Are we going to be able to afford financially to compete in the Championship? What I like about that question is it goes right the way back to 1982-83 when I came into Sporting Lincoln 4 or 5 years after that, or 3 years after that. And it was always, the question was always, the board don't want to get promoted, we can't afford it. That was the saying. And back in the late 80s, you couldn't, because if you went up to the Championship, all you had was a few bigger gates, but much bigger wages. You couldn't afford to go up. I think to answer Dave's question now, I don't think it's a question of can you afford to be in the Championship, because as soon as you step foot into the Championship, TV. Yeah. And what you have to do, it's not whether we can afford to go in the Championship, it's whether fans will understand that if we go to the Championship, we come straight back down. And we do it with the players we've got now, on the budget we've got now. And then you bank money. And then when you drop into League One, you're the big spender. Yeah. And you then go back up and you drop back down. You do what Rotherham do. And as a Lincoln City fan, I would love to do what Rotherham do every year. Promoted 1 year, relegated the next. Bring it on. Because if you're relegated bravely, you've still got plenty to cheer. If you go into the Championship thinking, we know, not thinking we're shit, thinking we're small. We're not as big as Middlesbrough, Forest, Derby, Preston, Brentford, whoever else is in there. I can't think who else is in there. Watford are in there, aren't they? We're not as big as any of them. So we'll go and stand toe-to-toe with them. And you know what? We come down and we battle bravely. But you save your money. When you come back down, you go back up. And it's how Burnley have made a career out of being in the Premier League. Because for a while, they came up, they spent nothing, they went back down. Then they came back up, they spent nothing, they went back down. Don't do what Villa and Fulham did. Go up, spend loads of money, come back down. Sod that. Be who you are. Come back down. If we were yo-yo in every division, do you know what? I'd love to go into May having something to play for, be it the title or relegation from the Championship. That would be better than just sitting in the playoffs in League One all the time. What a conversation to be having.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's stupid. It really is stupid. I went away to North Ferriby 4 years.
I mean, I think Paul's mentioned up in the chat. There is a very real contention that Lincoln City versus Arsenal could potentially be a league fixture next season.
Yeah, I'm not buying that as much, but I did see Paul mention that. I like this. Kevin Green, top bloke, known him years and years. Great to see Shrewsbury holding Doncaster and now half-time. Shrewsbury are a good side. They won't go down. Let me tell you now, Shrewsbury will finish mid-table, guaranteed. They weren't losing games. I said it on the podcast. They weren't losing games. They were drawing games. Shrewsbury are a decent side at this level. Are you happy to go on for a bit, Ben, if we answer a few more questions?
Yeah, by all means.
Brian Rundle had a great message from Brian earlier talking about SWOT analysis. And he was saying how Michael does a SWOT analysis after games on the club. And I thought that's brilliant because I didn't know that. And I've just done a SWOT analysis, I think, like Michael. Top bloke. You can imagine a team like Watford looking at the Big Apple as a man of principle. I would say there is no way Michael Appleton would go to a Watford.
No.
Even more, but we thought this about Danny because Danny said plenty that he wouldn't do. But Michael has been there and made the errors. If we'd had Danny and Danny was saying I wouldn't go to a team in mid-season and he had done it 3 times and it had failed, you could understand him not doing it. But he did it because he hadn't done it before. Michael's not going to go somewhere that's tainted. He's not going to go somewhere where he might be sacked in 3 months' time because he's been out of work at Blackpool, at Blackburn, at Portsmouth. He's been in those situations.
Yeah.
It's almost like the perfect storm with Michael to me. In that he was a top player, and he didn't achieve what he could have done because of injury, but he was a top player. He was a good coach, top coach, but he made the mistakes. And he knows he made the mistakes. We've spoken to him about them. He'll be here till the end of his contract. Signing a new contract is different because then his stock's high. Yes. I think he wants to put 3 years behind him and go to top clubs. Look at what I've done.
Yeah. And I mean, if that happens, I don't think anyone could begrudge you. I mean, obviously we're talking in the future and we're talking, good couple of years into the future at this point. But, I think it's interesting you say about, it's interesting you say about Danny there. It was, did you watch the Quest highlights on Saturday?
No.
Funny moment. So first off, there's all of the on your side badges where they've got like little scarves, the EFL Mind on your side thing. It's like a mental health charity thing. So everybody wears their team colours. And it was quite interesting to me that Danny Cowley had the red and white one, which is being sold through the Lincoln City store. I was like, okay, that's quite interesting. And then Colin Murray started talking to him about, about it, how he's getting on, what he's doing, and then how Lincoln are doing. Obviously, very complimentary about Lincoln. And then Colin said about, but your kids are Lincoln fans still, aren't they? I said, yeah, we still live in Lincoln. Kids still wear the Lincoln City shirts when they go training. They still want to go down to Sincil Bank when they can get back in. They're still massive Lincoln City fans. And it turned away. The camera panned away back to Colin Murray, and as the camera moved back, Colin just went, "Not so much Huddersfield." Absolutely priceless.
Do you know what? I am not somebody that'll hear a word against Danny Cowley.
100%.
And I'm not. It's a Christmas special. I've had 4 beers. I don't care. I'll say it. He's a hero of mine. He always will be. What he did for this football club, what him and his brother helped to spark in this football club was phenomenal. I'm not going to be derogatory about the way that they did it in terms of the football that they played because we loved it when it was being played. There's nothing to be derogatory about. Yes, we spent well when we were in League Two. We could spend well in League Two. Doesn't matter who was in charge. We would have had that money. We spent well when we had Peter Jackson in charge in League Two. And look what happened there. It all went to shit. So I'll never hear a word against Danny. I'm not somebody that will retweet everything he tweets. I'm not somebody that will talk about him all the time on social media because I'm an aware Lincoln City fan. I'm aware that you and I have a profile, so to speak. And if we were constantly going on about Danny, that's old news. But I think deep down, if we're honest, if you were to ask Danny, if you were to sit him down right now and say, "Do you regret leaving Lincoln?" I think he would say part of him does. But we were going in one direction, they were going in the other. And we've all had, when we were younger, relationships where you think this person's going in one place, this person's going the other. And, he just, that was the way it was. But in 10 years' time, there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Danny Cowley will be classed as one of the greatest Lincoln City managers. He deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as Graham Taylor, as Keith Alexander, and as Colin Murphy, and as Bill Anderson. And they're kind of a collective of Lincoln managers that achieved things that nobody else did. And Michael Appleton has got an awful lot going for him, an awful lot. If he was to get us into the Championship, he would be amongst those. You have to win a trophy to do that. I was always behind Michael. I was one of the first people who linked Michael with a job when I did an article on Football League World. I think he's a phenomenal manager. Quite how we've managed to get 2 in a row as we have, arguably 3. There's an argument to say that actually Chris Moyes is coming in and working for free. When he did, we were on our arse. He was the first one to pick us up. They've both now achieved since then. So you have to look at Clive as well. The last 2 appointments have been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if we're looking back over 2020, I think we just need to say, this has been an awful, awful, awful year for pretty much everything. But and this is in no way, just blowing smoke, because I think that's not who we are as people. But I think a massive thank you has to go to Clive, the board, Liam, and anybody associated with the club for keeping it going the way that they have done. Liam comes under a hell of a lot of stick, but when it comes down to it, he will give you as much information as he is allowed to do in the way that he feels is right. And I just think, a lot of the stick that he gets is undeserved. But you then look at Clive, you look at the honesty that Clive has, you look at the fundamental beliefs that Clive has as well. Like, Clive is essentially, his views align with a lot of people. The 617 lads, they talk about Clive a lot, and I think we've talked about Clive quite a bit as well, and we've said that his views on things are incredibly astute. He'll look at things and go, like the bailout initially, the bailout, the Project Big Picture. He was one of the most vocal chairman against it. We have the best front office in the EFL. I cannot disagree with that at all. I just think we are incredibly lucky to be where we are as a club right now. And we've said that we're going to end this with a chat about the next year. So I think it's probably right that we... Yeah, I think it's probably right that we wrap up about now and say, with everything in place as it is right now, provided there aren't going to be too many more issues, shall we say, with COVID, it's going to be a hell of a ride to May, and I'm so excited. I mean, do you think
I'm on holiday on the Wimbledon game?
Do you think we can do it?
Or playoffs? Yeah, why not?
Do you think we can stay?
We're as good as any team bar Portsmouth that we've played this year, and they're the only team that are above us. We're as good as Sunderland. If they hadn't scored that penalty, we could have been 2-0 up as well. So we can, but there are a million reasons why we can't as well. But football is so unpredictable, you don't know. We don't know where we'll be, but we'll be competitive. And we won't be in the bottom 4. And if in August, in fact, even September, I think, when we played Crewe, wasn't it? We kicked off in September.
Yes.
If you sat me down the day we played Crewe and said, come Christmas, I'll guarantee, not mathematically, but I'll guarantee that you won't be relegated, and that you'll be talking about potentially playing big teams next season. I mean, somebody further up has said if Sheffield Wednesday, Forest and Derby come down, they don't want to go up. But that's what football's about. It's not about level as well as it's about those games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think
these last 4 years have been the best period I've ever had supporting Lincoln City. And that's even over and above the Keith years, which were a Lazarus-type rise from the ashes, from the flames. But this is the best Lincoln City side. I'm not saying ever. This is the best Lincoln City side of my lifetime. And I've been saying that now for 4 years, year on year. And I think that tells you everything we need to say before we wrap up.
Absolutely. Well, I think that is a good spot to wrap up. It's been a good one tonight. I've enjoyed it. I think it's been the Christmas party. I think. Have you had a few too many, Gaz? Are they getting to you?
No. Well, there was times where I was talking to Dave about the American side, thinking. And then at the end of it, I'm thinking, shit, we're not meant to be talking about that. But other than that, I'd have liked more flashing lights. I'd have liked a bit more of the Pogues for it to be properly Christmas.
Okay, yeah, that's. I mean, to be fair, I've not even listened to the Pogues yet, and I
You know what's
normally.
You know what's Christmas number one?
Well, I know what I'd like to be Christmas number one.
What?
Boris Johnson is a.
I don't know what that is. I'm not talking politics with you. Cornell will block you on Twitter.
No, I'm on about the song, Gaz. Have you not heard the song?
No, because it's not in the top 10. I asked you a question. What's Christmas number one?
It's All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Yes, Fee's delighted because it's her favourite Christmas song and mine's the Pogues, and she thinks she's right and I'm wrong and she's not.
Well, I'll tell you this now. You are right, Gaz.
Right, so just as we wrap up, we've got Phil Dainty saying, great show, guys. Oh, you're too soft. David Johnson, fantastic show, boys. You were on it. You should know. Brian Rundle, great show, guys. Happy Christmas to you both. Kevin Green, what? No, great show. You've got to look at where we are without a 20-goal a season striker. We won the title in League Two without a 20-goal a season striker. We won the National League without one. Yeah, so absolutely. Oh, and look, he's Emily Rook says, thanks, Christmas. Thanks, Christmas.
You have had too many.
Happy Christmas to you both. Kev Green has come in. Merry Christmas, guys. Chris Lamming has been watching. We should have got him on. Love that, chaps. Happy Christmas. Ben, Christmas message from you before I finish.
Just have a good one, everybody. I hope Santa brings you exactly what you need, and hopefully it's going to be a way to get back into the bank.
That was socialist, wasn't it?
I know.
What you need, not what you want, what you need. Larry Langham, happy Christmas, guys. Great showing us to more pints or points in Christmas in 2020.
Both.
I just keep saying the word Christmas randomly. Merry Christmas to you both. 2021 being better for all Imps fans. Ben's opening another can. I daren't because I've got to get off work in the morning. Richard Godson, thanks for a great show, even if I did join it late. I'm going to say the same as Ben. It's been a really, really tough year, and Ben and I don't consider ourselves as providing a service. We do what we do because we enjoy what we do, and the fact that you listen is a massive, massive bonus. We've had some wonderful messages because it's been a year where we've heard from people who have suffered mental health problems, I think we all have to a degree. We've all had those moments where we've gone, I can't take any more. It's not about the podcast. It's about Sport in Lincoln City. It's about talking to each other on social media, be it me to Ben, be it Ben to Jake, be it Emily Rook to Kevin Green. It's the community is what it's about, and that's what I love being a part of. And okay, I do what I can, do what I do, but it's all about the community. It's never about an individual. Not listening to this, just hope that everybody finds some peace this Christmas. And we talk about moving into 2021 and we talk about moving into the future, but let's not forget the good things from 2020. It's been shit. Let's not forget the positives. Let's not forget the connections we've made, the support we've given each other. And
I mean, I just want to say thanks to you as well, mate, because it's been, there's been a few points where I've had to message you and say, particularly around podcast stuff, there's been days when we've had to delay the recording or, we've had to cancel a recording outright because I've just not been there. And it's appreciated. So thanks for your support. Appreciate it.
No worries. Same back. I missed one, but it is what it is, isn't it? We're all here for each other, and that's the point. So look, everybody, we're getting a mosh, totes of mosh.
Gaz is pissed.
Cornell's here. I sent Cornell a link as well. Cornell, what you doing, man? You missed the chance. 2021 will be the Mighty Imps year. I bet he didn't say that in 2020.
Right. We will. I think that's probably going to be a good spot to wrap up. So
you out. I'm going to play the intro because that's what we do. We will be recording before the end of the year, so we're not going to wish you a happy new year yet. We might be.
We will.
We are going to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Hey!